Ted, we're going to try again. We had a little technical difficulties in getting the stream started up, and we just go to see here if we've got. I think we're good this time. I think maybe I don't know. I'm going to let this roll here for a minute. If we're having a connection issue with one of the platforms, then I may not do this. So newer malcontents may be going, what the hell is going on? Older malcontents, for some reason, you guys like this. At least the malcontents who have been around longer. You guys really like this, and I've done this a couple of times where I'm just like, I don't feel like going to the studio. I don't feel like doing a sit down thing. There isn't necessarily, I'm not in the field or something necessarily isn't going on in the field. And so this is kind of a little combination of all of the above. I didn't feel like going out up into the studio tonight, and there wasn't necessarily anything big going on in Seattle tonight. And so I'm going to do a pillow talk. And so if you're not familiar with what pillow talk is, I'm sitting here on a big ass pile of pillows with Yoda the Wonder Pug. Yes, Yoda the Wonder Pug is here, and he is already passed out. Yoda the Wonder Pug is almost 17 years old, and he is doing freaking amazing. When you're like, I don't know, is it like 85? Was he like 85, 86 in dog years or whatever, human, whatever? Y'all better hope, he's almost blind, but outside of that, he's like doing miraculous. So y'all should hope you are as good and look as good as he is. So what's pillow talk? Pillow talk is when I think for me, in some ways, it's a little bit of therapy. Oh, by the way, if you're not watching on Facebook, you're watching the other channels and you're like typing a bunch of hate and vile and bile and all that other stuff, you're basically screaming inside an empty room. We don't look at the comments there. Nobody's monitoring the comments there, but we love that you are watching and screaming inside that room. So please keep screaming inside the empty room over there. Okay. You're doing a great job. And I kind of talk about, a number of different topics, and there is a ton of topics to talk about. For those of you, and also ton of new malcontents, thank you. Thank you for following, and I really enjoy having you guys here. And ladies and theys. I say you guys because I grew up on the East Coast. People that know me just know, like, there's nothing meant in there when I say use guys. It's total East Coast dude. All right, anyway, neither here nor there. So anyway, we talk about different things, and there's a ton to talk about. And I have a ton that I want to talk about. So with that, let's just kind of go dive into it. The first thing I want to kind of talk about is the C disease. So congratulations, great state of Texas, 10,000 dead, winning. And of course, in Georgia, what we're seeing now is a cascade of schools that are closing. Georgia, by the way, is now number 5 for the most coronavirus cases in the country. Good job, Georgia. Keep it up. He says very sarcastically. And, we are marching steadily to probably in another 30, 35 days, we're going to roll over 200,000 dead Americans. And, Canada is like, yeah, you know what? You plague rats aren't coming across our friggin' border into September. And I think anybody that isn't delusional on this topic knows that by the time we kind of start getting into October, the curve is not going to go in the right direction. And, we get into November and December, it's going to be a shit show. And the shit show is going to shift. Because the thing about the C disease is you are 18 times less likely to get C disease if you're outside. Where does that come from? Well, that comes from the CDC. I have my SAG-AFTRA Safe Set certification. That was part of the training. So you're 18 times less likely to get C disease, all things being equal, if you're outside versus inside. So, for example, if you were outside with a mask versus inside in a mask, that's why I say all things being equal. What does that mean for November? Well, right now, the southern states and the Southwest is getting the shit kicked out of them with C disease cases. Why is that? Because it's hotter in the butthole of the sun in those states. I lived in Texas for 8 years. I lived in the Houston area. And it's hotter in the butthole in the sun in those states. So what are people doing? Like August is reverse winter if you're in the South right now. What I mean by reverse winter is you're just moving from air conditioning to air conditioning to air conditioning. Yes, there's people maybe do manual labor and you work outside all day. Totally get it. But most people are just moving from air. So you're inside, breathing filtered air. And that goes back to that is where things are. But what's going to happen is when we get into, say, late October into November, it's going to shift. People in the South will be moving more outside because the weather's going to be a hell of a lot nicer. While people in the North now are going to start moving from heat source to heat source to heat source and being inside. And you're going to see where those caseloads, they're going to shift into those colder regions. And that's what you're going to see. And I think we're going to see a very, very similar pattern when we get into the dead of winter, where in the very rural areas, because right now the rural areas are having more cases. Why? Because people are moving around. When you get into the dead of winter and like, hey, let's go drive over to the next town over, and you're in a state like Wyoming, and there's a blizzard going on and getting into, or it's 50 below zero outside, and hey, let's go drive the next town over, could result in death. People, or like, shit, I don't have to put on all that stuff and start up the car. I lived in South Dakota for a little while there, and then sometimes it would get so friggin' cold out there, you'd have to ice with the heater on full blast, and you're dressed like you're Nanook, and you're scraping the inside of the windshield because your breath is freezing and condensing on the inside of the windshield of your car, and you have the heat on full blast. When it's that friggin' cold, you tend not to go anywhere. You self-isolate. So the rural area cases will go down. The urban areas, the cases are going to skyrocket because people are going to move from heat to heat. That's just what's going to happen. So I don't see the Canadian border opening up for a while. And we're just not doing anything about it. And there isn't a whole lot of talk about it. We're still short on PPV. Well, how do you know that? Because there's Dr. Mrs. Malcontent, who is a doctor. And we're still short on PPE. There's still people in hospitals. And of course, it depends where you're at. States are stabilizing in the southern regions because, oh, that's right. When people actually started getting really sick and really dying, and we got up to about 1,500 deaths as a country on the daily, people started pulling back on their activity because, oh, that's right, we're going to take this for real again. If you told me in my lifetime that we would have 200,000 dead Americans from a disease, a pandemic, that popped up, and that was in the span of 7 or 8 months, and we were really not doing a whole lot of anything about it, I would be like, no, we're the greatest country in the world. We're going to do something about it. Yeah, we're really not doing anything about it. And the numbers are just going to keep racking up. And we look like idiots. We look like a nation of flipping idiots over it. Just wear a flipping mask. That's the thing. Like wear a mask. Oh, well, I can't breathe in a mask. You know what? Yeah, you know why I'm doing that? Can't breathe in a mask? If my gray-haired, balding ass can run 1.8 miles, body armor, 25 pounds of camera equipment, and tear gas and pepper spray going off, not tear gas, but pepper spray and blast balls going off behind me, and I'm wearing a mask the whole way, you can wear a mask, go to the grocery store. I promise you that. I can't breathe. Yeah. You're so full of shit. I have a condition. I've seen those videos of people that have a condition who are screaming at the top of their lungs going, I have a condition. And they're not getting out of breath as they're getting all excited and yelling and screaming. Just a reminder, if you're tuning into this is Pillow Talk with Malcontent. We do this every now and then. I will be reading questions and comments, but only on Facebook. If you're on any of the other channels and you're just filling up the feed with hate and bile, thank you so much for amplifying the volume and giving us the eyeballs and the comments and stuff, because that amplifies all of us on the internet, but nobody's listening and nobody's watching. So keep screaming in that empty room. Anyway, that's enough about C disease. I want to talk a little bit about Sunday night because, things are kind of shaking out and the information is coming out. There's been multiple news stories coming out. And as is the case, the truth is starting to come out. And I'm going to give a little bit of to Como because Como is part of Sinclair Communications, which is kind of like a Trump network. And Como has generally... you could say, has not necessarily been fully objective in some of their reporting, which would be a little bit of an understatement. Como ran a piece last night. They did reach out. It was very transparent with everybody on the Tango when they reached out, saying, "Hey, we're gonna share," because they've asked for very specific content, and they showed the observer, legal observer, green hat legal observer, and the National Lawyers Guild being struck by an SPD officer. First thing I want to clarify, there's some stuff going on in the alt-right world, where you guys are a little like, you guys are so bad at researching stuff. It's stunning. It's like there's this picture of this woman who's like burning an American flag, and then they have some other pictures of this. Like, they're the same woman. She's a protester. She's not a. No, the National Lawyers Guild has said she's with the National Lawyers Guild, and I can promise you they are two different people. Because I've seen both of those people, and I don't see double, meaning there isn't one, and I saw two of them. My eyesight is good in that department. It's crappy in other departments, but I don't have a problem with double vision, and I can promise you they are two different people. And the investigative reporting that's gone on between the two, it's like basically, it's like, well, they're both heavy. And that's about the only thing that we can conclude is identical about these two people. But no, they're two totally different people. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, we filmed this, Como ran this, and I really feel that Como ran an extremely objective piece. National Lawyers Guild has come out, condemned the action of the Seattle's police department. Lisa Herbold, on the King County, part of King County government, has also come out and said this was in direct violation of the court order and in direct violation of the consent decree that SPD operates on. Further, National Lawyers Guild released the statement that was given to them by the Seattle Police Department that assured the National Lawyers Guild and the ACLU that illegal observers, green hat with the National Lawyers Guild and blue vest with the ACLU, medics as identified by Red Cross, and credentialed media. They have a list of different organizations where you fall in credentialed media. We have that information on our page, and we have where we are a audiovisual media company that does news gathering, and that is why we fall as credentialed press in there and identified press. That SPD would say they're going to be allowed to operate. And the only time then that is going to get pulled, like if there's an order to disperse, then no, none of you have to disperse. If there is a declaration of a riot or declaration of an unlawful assembly, then all bets are off at that point. Full stop. Because I know somebody right now is on their keyboard going, they declared a riot. Yes, you were correct. They declared a riot. They declared a riot at 10:58 p.m. They did not declare a riot all the way back down when we marched down to the SPOG headquarters, or while they were running people all the way up the street. The riot declaration happened almost all the way back up to the stadium. So it was about, at that time, it was around 10:50. Officially, it was at 10:58 p.m. I know some of the news stories said 11. If you want to get really pedantic, then go ahead and get really, really pedantic on that. And I had said multiple times during the streams, they have not said the words unlawful assembly or riot. By the way, everything that we have on the streams, they never said to the people that were there, this is a riot. The only words that was ever said, we have over 4 hours of video on this. The only words that were ever declared was unlawful assembly. And I acknowledged on there when they said this is an unlawful assembly. I was like, well, then, that's it. All bets are off at this point, and now, now I have to work on not getting arrested, because part of the problem too was on that 4th Avenue where everybody was at there. That is an industrial area, if you're not familiar with Seattle. And a lot of that there is kind of, industrial buildings and things that are fenced off and commercial lots. So it isn't like, okay, let me disperse down this side street. There really are no side streets to disperse down. And I could get into a whole separate conversation on my opinion on that, but that's my opinion. And that's kind of not what I want to talk about tonight. So anyway, Yoda's not snoring. He is totally passed out. I know people that done this are probably waiting to hear the pug snores, but he's just passed out. As you can see, he's just super content right now. The whole point of this is the city council has been asked by the National Lawyers Guild to basically make a direct statement to the Seattle Police Department, you can't touch the press. You can't touch legal observers. You can't touch medics. The end. And if you do touch them, then they have civil recourse. Civil recourse meaning you could sue for money. And the city council seems to be, at least, it's hard to read the tea leaves, but I would say they're probably leaning in that direction. Well, another person's just going to put press on there. No, because the court decree on August 10th has a very clear list of what qualifies as a bona fide media person, journalist, whatever word you like to use. You're not a journalist. Actually, I've written for publications. I've done video work for a number of organizations, and I'm in the middle of producing a documentary right now, not actually related to Black Lives Matter. I'm producing another one about the country in Namibia right now. So yes, I am sorry. I am authentic, credentialed media. Hate to break it to you. Get a real job. I have a real job. Yoda's starting to snore. Anyway, that's enough of kicking that dead horse in the ground. There were 18 people that were arrested. Interesting thing I think that's going to happen. There was a thing that went around, like they've all been charged with felonies. I saw that. And so far that doesn't appear to be the case unless there's something deep somewhere that I don't know about. As far as I know, I think there's only been 4 or 5 people formally charged, and only one of those people charged with a felony. What the courts have been doing, and this gets complicated, and this gets into old school malcontents have heard me just beat this into the ground. So sorry, you're going to hear me beat it into the ground again. One of the problems that we have here with crime and where things are really complicated. Only 18% of cases that are presented to King County prosecutors go to trial. 18%. That's it. So right out of the gate, any protester that Seattle police is trying to hang a felony around their neck, there's only about a 1 in 5 chance that they're actually going to face a felony. So in Washington State, if you're charged with a felony, it doesn't go to a municipal court. It goes to a county court. Or if you're in, say, a very, very small town, and that very small town doesn't have a municipal court, and that very small town doesn't have a partnership, say, with another town to use their courts and or their jails, then it's all handled at the county level. If it's kicked down from a felony, then it goes back to the municipal court. And one of the problems that you have here in Seattle, where let's say you have an individual that is violent. I'm not talking about protests now. I'm just talking in general. Let's say if you do have somebody who is violent, and there's a 1 in 5 chance that King County prosecutors are, so they're charged assault too, Washington RCW. 1 in 5 chance, roughly, that they're actually going to get a felony charge when it goes to King County prosecutors. There's a 4 in 5 chance it's going to get kicked back down the city of Seattle. Now all the city of Seattle can do is assault 4. They can't try a felony at that level. So all they can do is assault 4. And assault 4 is like, here you go. Oops. I just changed the setting. I hope I didn't, there you go. I'm committing assault 4 on you. There you go. That's assault 4. Not real. But you know what I mean? That's virtual assault 4. So you get this revolving door with truly violent individuals that should be in the system. So what's really probably going to happen to a lot of these people is they're probably not going to get charged, because they can actually take them out of the protest game. I know some people are looking at me, but they should be charged. Yeah, and you know what? If they don't have anything prior, they're not going to jail, and they'll almost certainly get adjudication or some community service, and then their record will just disappear afterwards. But what will probably happen is they probably won't be charged, but they won't be, well, we're not going to charge you. It'll just be, we're going to think about it. That essentially takes somebody out of the game, so to speak, because if they have something to lose, and if they get arrested again, now they're looking at 2 charges, right? They get arrested again, they're looking at 3 charges. And then eventually, they may go and just slap all those charges on. Now, if they go to court, even if they have a great lawyer, even if they got stacks of money, something's going to stick, right? Because now they may be looking at 2, 3, 4 charges at the same time. So that's what I think is going to happen. There's a video that is out tonight that is quite frankly horrific. And the video is of SPD on Sunday tackling somebody on a bike and just absolutely kicking the living shit out of this person. They beat him unconscious. They weren't resisting arrest because it's all on video. This is the thing. Hey, SPD, like malcontents that watched the video on Sunday, they all saw you stop and take my picture and stuff while I was standing there. So like, I know you know who I am. It's not an ego trip, but seriously, there's cameras running. It's like, I say this to everybody. I say this to everyone in this society. There's cameras everywhere. Like when I see a person that's acting like a dumbass, either they're being a dumbass racist or they're being a dumbass, I'm not going to wear a mask, or they're just like dumbass, self-entitled dumbass, or dumbass, they're assaulting someone, or a cop dumbass choking out George Floyd for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and killing them. There's cameras everywhere. Everywhere. People, you got to get it through your friggin' heads that like you have no privacy if you're in public and you're just gonna have to assume you're being filmed. Now, if you know that anyway and you behave that way, well then that just says a lot about your freaking character. And it's not like, ooh, I'm gonna be there to film you. No, that's not what this is about. It's just there's cameras everywhere. And guess what? Well, the CSPD was basically what really looks like felonious assault, like people should lose their jobs over. Wasn't me. I'd have got in a lot closer if it was me. But someone filmed the whole friggin' thing. And it's freaking horrific to watch. I've been embedded with the ENDD crew and then the DA crew on a number of their marches. And I have said before, are all cops bad? No, not all cops are bad. The system is the system's not broken. The system works perfectly. The system needs to be reset. But right now, the system works perfectly. Are all protesters good? No, not all protesters are good. But that's my objective view. But I will say this on Sunday, because again, if you've watched the streams and you've watched the direct action stuff that I have documented on Sunday, that was like it was like a march of kittens. It was like a march of grandmas. There was very little even chanting. There was no nothing was broken. Like nothing was broken. There was just no nothing. I jokingly have said, I think I wrote a reply on the tango, like it was like Granny's on Thorazine on Jello night right before bingo's going to be starting for 30 minutes. It was that calm. I have been to non-direct action protesters where it's housewives and homeowners and blah, blah, blah at the beginning of all of this, when there were tens of thousands of people marching that were more than what the group was on Sunday. And I just think that the riot declaration was completely ridiculous. I was downtown Seattle on May 30th. So I've seen a riot. That was a riot. That was the right call. Sunday was not a riot. They had no right to touch the legal observers. They had no right to tell the media that was there, we don't care that you're media. And they had no right going after medics. The end. If you go after media, if you go after medics, this was a war zone. Well, it's not a war zone.
That's like one of the lamest, well, it's not a war zone. That's like one of the lamest things. If there was a war zone, they'd be war crimes. They'd be flat out war crimes by the Geneva Convention. So, like, if you're proud that your government is committing war crimes on their own citizens in the name of, I'm not exactly sure what, because they go back to literally nothing was broken, like nothing. And SPD initially came out, 10 windows were broken. That's why no windows broken. And like, that claim disappeared within 15 minutes. They broke windows in a police cruiser, turned into, they tried to break windows in a police cruiser, turned into, we don't want to talk about that anymore. The mainstream media and all of this, I've bagged on them. Sunday night when I got home, my phone is just blowing up. And my email boxes were just blowing up. With MSM, mainstream media wanted to use my content. And I told no to a lot of people. One organization, I was like, you can use this one little clip. But because one little clip, because I was reading between the lines, I'm like, you guys have a narrative you want to tell. So here, you can use this clip, which wasn't aligning to the narrative I think you don't want to tell. And yeah, I guessed that right. And then again, Como approached me and what they wanted to use. But again, things were just blowing up when I got back. The challenge that MSM, the mainstream media, has, because I think both sides, like, if you're over on those other channels spewing hate, going, how come no one's responding to me? Or if you're on one of those channels right now and you're like, how come nobody's doing anything? There's all these hateful comments. If that's you, the Facebook, you go to Facebook and you can watch there. There's moderators there, and you can just let them scream in the empty rooms over there. But now, with that said, whether you're left or whether you're right, on this part, you should listen to me about MSM, the mainstream media. What multiple editors told me. Now, part of this, of course, is stroking. They're because they want my freaking content. And of course, they want it for free. Yes, here. Thank you for potentially risking your life tonight and having a flashbang grenade thrown directly at you and exploding right behind your freaking head. Good thing you're wearing class 4 body armor and so you weren't injured when that happened. We would like to use your content to create a false narrative, give you no credit, and pay you no money. How does that sound? Really unappealing. Really unappealing. And likewise, I don't feel like profiting on other people's misery. So, like, well, if we put some money on that, it still sounds really unappealing. All right. Mainstream media. The police don't want them there. And the protesters don't want them there. And I heard this from more than one editor. And they can't tell the story. So if there's people, so if you're on the right and you're going, how come they're not showing more of these Antifa rioters destroying America? It's because the mainstream media, the police don't want them there, and the protesters want them there. And if you're on the other side, you're going, how come the mainstream media only says what the police release to them or the whatever? Because that's the only source they have. Because the police don't want the media there, and a lot of the protesters don't want the media there. And there are people that work to earn the trust to get out there and tell the story. I guess the whole point of this is that there is a community of streamers across this country that are doing amazing work. They are doing it for free or donations. I would say almost all of them are doing it at a loss, at a net loss. Almost all of them have another career because, again, you're doing it at a loss. No one's getting rich. No one's getting rich on this, and has the trust of either the trust of the police, the protesters, and or both. No one, because basically, if you're trying to profit off this, they don't want you around on both sides. And so, if you want the story, well, then this is why you're watching, because these are the only people that are able to tell the story right now. And my advice to, if you're on the protester side, You want streamers there. Now you want honorable streamers that are there, because there are things that need to be done, and streamers, I feel, do have an obligation to earn trust. But it goes back to, I think that some people have this unreasonable expectation of, you can't, I don't want my face shown. I don't, look, it's an unreasonable, like, no, it's not. It is, because there's cameras everywhere. There's traffic cams, there's security cams, there's Ring, there's Wise, there are dash cams, and every a-hole on the planet has got a phone. And like, I know for a fact that somebody in the Seattle community really screwed up, and that person probably is never going to stream in this town again, because they were just kind of really ridiculous in how they were doing things. And that's why I say, as streamers, there's this line of telling the story, but then on the flip side, respecting everyone's views. If you're on the other side and you don't want the press around, if you're the ones enforcing the law, if you're the enforcers, and you don't want the media around, the mainstream media around, what are you hiding? Because you're supposed to be, if your job is to uphold the law, then you answer to a higher calling. And part of answering to that higher calling is there is a higher level of expectation then that is upon you. That is part of what goes on with that. I've said many, many times, as somebody who is, where this site has morphed really into more of a journalism site at this point, and I have said many, many times, my integrity is what I've got. And this is why if I get things wrong, I'm going to say things wrong. And actually, I have a couple of things I did get wrong, or made assumptions on. The first thing, see how all this flows together? So the first thing is, I did make the comment on there. It's like, this doesn't feel like tear gas, and this doesn't feel like pepper spray. Seattle says they didn't use tear gas. With that said, it's very clear in video that there were some canisters that were released that don't appear to be flashbang grenades. It's very, very, and they're not fireworks being thrown from the other side. That's very, very clear. I looked when I went back and replayed on my video. I saw some stuff where it's very, very much yellow haze, and CS is yellow, but it's tough because it's night. And at night, mercury vapor lights mercury vapor light is very warm. From a photography sense, warm means it has a low Kelvin temperature, and that gives things a very yellowish glow, and gives things kind of this orangey yellowish cast when you go and you when you play it back and you haven't done color correction. So it very well could be the lighting that gave things this yellowish haze. I was told by people that had experienced the ordinance that was used on Sunday that I had not experienced before, that the blast balls, the pepper in it is very, very different. I would describe it as like, it was a really, really like gunpowderish smell. And again, that wasn't the fireworks, because there was this one that like went off practically at my back. Again, I told Dr. Mrs. Malcontent, because she was the one who was like, if you're going to keep doing this, your happy ass needs to get body armor. Okay. I'm going to keep doing this. My happy ass is going to get body armor. And I'm talking about it now because it's no secret at this point. Like, people will see me out in it. So that's why I'm wearing it. Keep Dr. Mrs. Malcontent happy, and also keep myself in one piece. And personally, I think I wouldn't have had anything worse than flash burns, but I do think that it prevented me from getting burned. And that's the important thing. Man, they get my clock. My clock was, I don't know, pull over the haters there. They're just like, I hope you got worse. Yeah, whatever. Ken, nobody's looking over there. You're shouting in an empty room. Keep shouting in that empty room, please. It gets more eyeballs on the content. I love it. I love it. Next I want to talk about is IP theft. This isn't the first time that I've shot something or shot video and people have picked it up and reused it and repurposed it. And it's actually been repurposed in a number of different ways. It's been repurposed what I felt was good. I think what Spec did in taking my video, and I think some of the stuff from Rebellion Baby, I believe that's the other video that was used. If I'm wrong, I'm misquoting, attributing. I'm like totally in George W. Bush mode tonight. I must be tired. I apologize. I believe it's Rebellion Baby's video though that was also put in there. But if I'm wrong, somebody can put in the comments. And what they did to kind of create the timeline and the chain of events to kind of go, no, 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 no. Because there's actually something that happened that I wasn't aware of. I wasn't aware that pepper spray was released in that alleyway that I came up through, because that was the only option that the people there were given, was to go through that alleyway. And I wasn't aware of that. So I had moved because, I could tell the situation's funky. Omari calls it the funky scale. And when we were at the end there by Spog, like the funky scale was probably about an 8 out of a 10, right? It was just, you're standing in a bucket of gunpowder and there's people all around you with lit matches. It was just, it's going to go down. And so I had moved because the one thing you don't want to be, if you're thinking about being a streamer, here's first free advice for the night. You do not want to get between, when things are 5 and above funky scale, you do not want to be between 2 different groups. If things are funky, it doesn't matter if that group is police or protesters and counter protests or whatever. You don't want to be between those 2 groups, because if things just, and what my experience is there'll be things where it'll feel tense, and then it just fizzles away. And then there'll be other times where it can go from a 3 to a 10 like that. And that's kind of what happened on Sunday. And so I had moved so that, because we were about kettled in, I even said they're trying to kettle us, because I was actually kind of walking around this circle between, and I was just kind of like saying out loud, like, I'm crossing the line, I'm crossing the line. And I kind of got to this spot where it's like, okay, the police cordon behind me is really thin here. It's very porous right here. So if things erupt, at least I'm not going to be in a position where I don't have my back turned to one side or the other. And at least I'm going to see whatever's coming is coming. And then people started to move through that alleyway, and I was like, okay, let me move. What I didn't realize is that as that group continued to move, as they started pepper spraying everybody in this narrow alleyway, what I did, was like, there was this panicked run that came to my right, and there was some pushing, and then there were some calls for medic, and then basically all hell broke loose. But the thing that Spec did showed the timeline of events using video from multiple people, which shows the truth. It shows the true story. Now, some of you are going to go right on this, and some of you are going to go, but that's not the true story. That's the true story, because video doesn't lie. This is why I tell people, look, you want to be told what to think? You're on the right. You got Fox News. If you're crazy right, you got Alex Jones. They will tell you what to think. They will feed it to you in a spoon. If you're on the left, you want to be told what to think? You got MSNBC. They will feed it to you on a spoon. You want to see the before, during, and after, and then make your own decisions? Watch a friggin' stream. I watch a stream that shows the before, the middle, and the after. And then you get the whole story. And then on IP theft, you have people like Andrew No, who took video without asking or permission, and is creating a false narrative with it. And also, I guess, is using some of the video in like, he's got some ego problems. Andrew, you got some ego problems, buddy. You really do. I guess there's some stuff on there like, we found this license plate on his feed. It's like, you didn't see the 15 police officers that were there and the 15 police cruisers? You don't think none of them had cameras on? You don't think none of them had dash cams? You don't think they were taking pictures, Andrew, of everyone's license plates in the car brigade before anything even left? All right, Andrew, I hate to break it to you, but there were a whole bunch of police officers there. If you actually maybe watched the video, you might have noticed the police officers. So Number one that I got wrong was there were people talking, and I know some people said, no, they used tear gas, they used tear gas. I don't think they used tear gas. So yeah, I was going to get back to that point. Here's the second thing, the question on LRAD. There was this one moment, the sound cut off. The reason the sound cut off is the microphone was so overloaded. There were some other moments in the video where the sound cuts off when close proximity to fireworks, close proximity to blast balls, close proximity to flashbangs. What's happening is there is so much signal coming through the microphone. The input is cutting off so that it essentially doesn't destroy the circuit. Because if you think of that signal coming with the microphone, essentially an electrical signal, it's voltage, and the voltage is becoming so high that it's turning itself off. And there's one point, if you go back to the video on Sunday, that it is so freaking loud that from just of a single police cruiser where the siren puts it out. And I mean, it really was like a pneumatic drill in my skull. You really could have convinced me it was LRAD. Of what I understand, what it was is kind of like this little testing technique of trying to get 15 or 20 cruisers going and just turning the volume up to 11 on the sirens and just rocking the volume. I didn't find it annoying. Anyone who watched the video, I think, could tell I was mocking it. I had heard from the mods that it really ticked off some of the people on the right that I was mocking all of this sound. To me, this was it really was. This was oh boy, and I love the little grandkid. He's a great little bugger, but it's oh, the grandkid's over and he's playing with the police toy. And they showed up early. It's 9:30 in the morning, and I haven't had my cup of coffee yet. And he's playing. It's a fire truck, actually. He played with the fire truck to make all the noises. It was, to me, that's what it was. And I will say this, and this might come across a little judgmental, and it's not meant that way. But there's some what I like to call the youngins. There were some youngins that were there, and they were clearly. It was really impacting them. I'm thinking in the back of my head, you are not ready to have kids. Just don't have kids yet, because if all this siren noise is driving you crazy, there you go. You have just failed Ready to Be Parent 101, just right here. You're not ready yet. So, but it wasn't LRAD. They were just doing this thing with the sirens. So. And in the end, estimates about 200 protesters, so 18 arrested, so less than 10%. And as I said, of those 18, not all 18 will be charged. There's a ton of people that get arrested and don't get charged, just a ton of them. And I think again, what they're just trying to do is they're just hanging that charge over their head, because it kind of takes them out of the game, so to speak. So where do I think all of this is going to go? I'll tell you, it's not going to go away. When you have these heavy-handed tactics, it doesn't discourage people. It backfires. We saw this in Portland. We've seen this in every friggin' city. Every city where they squeeze tighter, the sand just goes through their fingers. Sorry, George Lucas. I know it's a little bit of a Star Wars. Star systems. The star systems go through your fingers. Sorry, George. And that's kind of what's going on. Every protester that's being unconscious by the police that's caught on film, you create 10 new protesters. Look, I'm sure, again, there's people on the other channel. You're wrong. Anybody who's had any military experience, real military experience at more than just I'm out here being told what to do level, they know this is true, because they know how this works. What is one of the fundamental things you have to do if you are in an engagement with a force that is actively working against you? You have to win hearts and minds. And I'll tell you right now, SPD is not winning hearts and minds. They're not winning this battle. They're not. They're going to have to change tactics, because this isn't going away. Well, there's less people. It's not going away. We outnumber you. When I say we outnumber you, I'm not talking about people engaged in passive action or active action, I put myself in the category of passive action. I am there as a documentarian. I am there as a storyteller. I am there to show what is going on. When I read some of these comments, like, you're just a terrorist like them. Like, what? Does the third arm grow out of my chest and I start throwing water bottles from the third arm out of my chest? I'm holding a camera with two hands. Am I shitting out fireworks out of my ass? Like how exactly am I breaking shit while I'm filming shit? I don't. That's just weird. Like, do you think I have superpowers? Really? I have superpowers. I use my telekinetic forces to just like crush skulls. Like in that movie Scanners. That's an old reference. You're like, like Gen X and beyond will get scanners, and like everyone else, like, what the hell is scanners? I know, go look it up. It's such bad special effects today. James Woods. Come on, if you're on the political right, you have to know what scanners. Because you guys like James Woods. James Woods in that movie. All right, let's go to your comments. It's going to probably be interesting. Oh, wow, there's a lot of comments. Just put a nice bandana. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. If you've got a thing and you can't wear it, just they'll pick it up. I'm reading like your stuff here, Mal. Oh, Herbal is city council members? Wait a minute, what? Herbalt's a city council member, but she lives in Bellevue? Can someone explain that to me? I'll get to those comments. Let me go the other way. I'm going to do these backwards. A fourth arm to write, this machine enrages fascists. I love it. One of the other ones we love that we laugh at you on the political right. Sorry. We love you, though. But one of the things we love you is when you go, they're a fascist Marxist. It's like, well, you keep using that word. I don't think the word means what you think it means. You can't be a fascist Marxist. It's like, it's impossible. Philosophically, or a fascist communist. They're a fascist communist. Like, philosophically, it's impossible. And we laugh at you about this. We really do. We like, oh my God, the stupid, it burns. I'm sorry. The squeaky pig is in another room. I'm not going to go. I don't have the squeaky pig. Yeah. And whoever, like, I got a squeaky pig. You have to be in the Pacific Northwest and to know that, like, that is a rite of passage when someone's like, yes, you've earned a squeaky pig. It's a rite of, so I earned my squeaky pig. And the other thing is that, I wrote about this, but here's like a second, this is a bizarro random act of kindness. But it's kind of a cool one. So if you watch the feed right after the flashbang was thrown at me that went off, and like somebody just a few seconds later was like, "Are you okay?" And how I heard them, I don't know, but apparently I did. It was like, "Yeah, I'm good." I just had my bell really rung. They grabbed a part of that flashbang grenade, and then later on they caught up to me and they were like, "Here, have a souvenir." And they gave me a part of that. And so I actually have that sitting on my desk, and I'm like, this is just so cool. It's that this burned piece of like metal that clearly came from whatever it was. And it's got some numbers on it. And then I got the squeaky pig right next to it. So I'm like, cool. I feel like I earned my battle stripes. Madison, I'm looking at your comment. So Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent and I went down on May 30th. And the reason we went down to the George Floyd protest, the reason we went down, like, why do you even care about any of this? You're a white asshole from the burbs. We have a black daughter-in-law. She's an amazing young woman. Absolutely amazing young woman. She's so freaking smart, beautiful. She's perfect for my stepson. My stepson is he's a bit of a character. If you watch the current things of 90 Days Fiancé, he's a little like Alexi, but not as much as an asshole as Alexi is. And I think Alexi has a little bit of a drinking problem, and he barely drinks. But he does. Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent watch it, and we're just like, there's sometimes Alexi says some stuff, and it's like, oh my god, that could just be, for her son being stepson. It could just totally be him. But he's not. But so he has a little bit of an acquired taste. So am I. And anyway, our daughter-in-law is they're perfect. They are. They really are. They're perfect. And we're going to have black grandchildren one day. We know that. So, and when they moved to the town that they moved in, I lived in that town for 12 years. And that town has a really bad reputation with the BIPOC community. And when they moved there, I told my daughter-in-law, like, you have to really be careful and really try not to drive on this road. And if you have to drive on this particular road, like seriously, you can't drive a piece of shit car. You got to make sure, like, all your headlights and everything else work, follow the speed limit, like no excuse to get pulled over. Because this town's got a really serious reputation with the BIPOC community. And I'm not mentioning town names for their security and my security. Because yeah, someone's tried to dox me already. And I've had death threats already. Don't you people on the right have anything better to do? And it's just really bad optics. And I'm an old white Jewish dude. Anyway, like, wow, you're scared of me? He cracks me up. Anyway, so we went because, like, I think like a lot of other Americans, we were just so friggin' horrified, and like, this is important and was done. And we saw how the situations devolved, but we also saw, and we saw white agitators that were, striking just like what was happening in Minneapolis, people that came to cause trouble. And I have seen in these protests over and over and over and over and over and over again, the people that cause friggin' problems are friggin' white people. And so I started going. Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent went to a couple of more. And then there was this thing on June 6th. And this was on June 6th when I saw unbelievable. It's if I hadn't filmed it, if I hadn't seen it for myself, I wouldn't believe it. And people have watched the little kind of mini movie that was made out of what happened on that stream. That was an intense, go back. If you want to see something intense, go back to the June 6th of that stream in Chop, because that's friggin' intense. And I can't watch that video anymore. I can't. It reaches a point in there where it's too much. It's just too much. That was some crazy, crazy shit. And that was just like wow, I've really fallen down the rabbit hole, because holy crap. And how do I know that SPD, they didn't overreact? Oh, yes, they did. Because on June 7th, Carmen Best and Jenny Durkin got up in front of the entire city in a press conference and said, we screwed up. We were a little, we went overboard. We're sorry. And that was the event where SPD put the pictures of the IED up on Twitter. They threw IEDs at us, and they were candles. And not only were they candles, but SPD didn't even bother to peel the labels off of the candles. So like the UPC codes that said candles were still on the candles. They hollowed them out and put. I've heard like sometimes people just try to grab because they want that reality, right? Well, they hollowed them out and put because it's got a wick, and you can see it's a whole intact. Like one of them's kind of broken up, but you can see they're not hollowed out. That they're just candles. So like this is the joke in Seattle now. Like, oh, it's the IED candle. By the way, Cairo, you pieces of shit, like you ran the thing about, well, they blew a hole in the wall when the Seattle Fire Department has already said it was almost certainly a Seattle Police Department flashbang grenade that happened to fall between the window and the plywood. And there is no 8-inch hole in the wall, because one of the things that when the arson investigators went in for the Seattle Fire Department goes, well, wait a minute, we see the hole on the outside, but on the other side, there's a piece of glass. So like this hole that you have on the inside wall, there's no corresponding anything on the outside wall. So what do you mean this was caused by an explosive? Because no. That was Seattle Fire Department, and that's public information. You can look it up. But anyway, back in the 7th, they're like, and, they kind of walked back the IED thing, but they left the tweet up. It's like, are you too embarrassed to delete the tweet? I delete the tweet. If they came to me in the marketing, should we delete it? You should delete that tweet. You should just, because when you just leave it up there, people will just keep going back to that tweet. Yeah, you will take more heat for deleting it for about 48 hours, but then everyone will forget. And then there was this tweet. No, there wasn't. I can't find it. See, and then actually it works easier for you in the political right if they deleted the tweet. They never said that. They deleted it. Oh, no, it's still up there. So they said it. And that was it. That's when I was like, I see. So there's just this whole false narrative. So let's fight the false narrative. Anyway, that's what started all this. More Carl Sagan than Georgie. Yeah, exactly. They can and they can hang that over their heads for like a year. I was actually laughing my ass off. I'm not sure exactly on which was. Again, Anita, we have 4 hours of video, and nothing was trashed and nothing was broken. You can live in your own parallel universe. But we shot video for over 4 hours on Sunday. Every step of the way on the front lines. The only people that broke shit was the Seattle Police Department. We will always remember the plastic traffic barrels that were dragged from one location to another. Pity the street. Oh my God, the sirens. I did really see some. It was interesting. Like as a storyteller, as a documentarian, when the camera's on a pole, here's something that I think that a lot of people don't realize. When the camera's on the pole, particularly when there's a police engagement going on, and the police have all those lights on, they have all the cruisers on. If I'm looking in that direction, all I see is light. We're blinded at eye level. The reason you can see what's going on is because the camera is another 4 to 8 feet above my head, and it's above that. By the way, if you also go back to the video, you can see where SPD was attempting to blind the camera on the pole, and were successful at it. I actually was not aware they were blinding the camera. I just would happen to move and change position and get out of it. But there were 2 officers actively trying to shine light up onto the camera. And blind the camera when we were back over at Spog before we went up in the alley. At the other point, it's just a free for all. There is anything. So there are times where people like, well, why did he move the camera? Because I actually can't see what's going on up there. Because I'm watching with my eyes. The lens, right? What the lens is seeing is 4, 6, 8 feet up over my head, and I'm 6 foot even. And we had it up high. For most of that, because there's no power lines in that area. We're doing Cap Hill. I got to keep it low because holy shit, there's power lines everywhere and they're friggin' low. See, that's it. If you hate me, if you hate these feeds, you need to watch when I'm out there, because you might see me get electrocuted one day. You'd see it live and you would love that. So you should just keep watching for that. Because we love the haters. We love you. Amplify the volume. We love you guys. But I can't see what's going on, basically, when that's happening. So I'm watching the people around me, and it was very clear there are some people, a lot of them, what I would call, in my eyes, are like, you're kids. I've earned a street name. I'm not going to say what it is. That's secret. But they're kids. That one dude, there's like, you're an old bald guy. I'm bald? Yeah, I'm a little thin up here, but holy crap, it's like, but it's here. It's here. The hair starts here. See, there's hair. You see the hair? Not bald. Balding. Not bald. Oh my God, old bald guy. You just look like an old bald guy. This old bald guy could run. but I could see it was really rocking some of the people there. It was definitely having like a psychological impact to them. So, you know, Ben, yeah, I've seen this. Okay, so like I know that like I was doing a feed and like everyone dropped and then everyone was like, "Oh my god, what happened to me?" Like there was just panic because things were really spicy. I have 2 to 3 devices with me at any time. This particular incident, I had 3. All 3 went down. Basically, anybody that was using Verizon or a device was on the Verizon network, everything died for like a minute, and then everything came back up. There has been a couple of times where basically everyone's cell phones have died, and of course that impacts streamers when that happens. And it's a little, but I don't know. That's a little far down the rabbit hole. It's a little far down. It's technology. Shit happens, and I say that as somebody who has a marketing agency. We manage live event. I mean, a lot of the stuff that a lot of the equipment that I have for streaming, I'm fortunate because I'm using agency equipment to go out and do it. Um, and ultimately I'm credentialed press because Malcontentment Tango is under the umbrella of the company that we have, so it's essentially a DBA of the marketing agency, and that was registered before any of this happened, and I just registered it that way, kind of as a little umbrella of protection, and to give me some teeth for things like when people like Andrew know IP theft. So then Andrew, if you think I'm just some a-hole 25-year-old streamer with no resources and you're just going to counterclaim against it and this is going to go away, you're wrong, buddy. You're wrong. I mean, I would rather not spend money doing it, but sometimes there's things, I will do things on principle, and IP theft is a thing on principle for me because I've been in intellectual property, the creation, the marketing, or the creation for other people almost my entire career. So I have mad respect for intellectual property. And Andrew, you should too. Let's see. I don't think I'm actually. See, it's absolute friggin' hot mess. I love that comment. Every time a troll comments, a squeaky pig is bored. I just love that, and I'm gonna steal that. The other thing I'll just say, what I say about Sunday is that, um, again, longtime malcontents know, especially when all this crap has hit when all this is kind of started and the crap hit the fan, starting in June. I've loved Rage Against the Machine. I've loved Rage Against the Machine I've loved their music. Matt Miller is friggin' genius. And he's not just he's a producer. He really is. He's friggin'. You may be someone on the political right and hate their music and their message and stuff. He's a freaking genius. And what I understand too, he's like totally like guy next door cool. Like he does not have a big friggin' ego. That's what I understand. Never met the guy, but that's what I've heard. I've heard he's like just really chill and laid back and generally just a great friggin' dude. The whole point of this is that if any Rage Against the Machine plays, like right before I film or right before we go out or something, it's just like it's going to get funky. It's just going and I keep saying it's not code. There's no secret message in it. It's just I've gotten to the point now where it's like, Rage Against the Machine's playing. It's going to get crazy tonight. And it does every friggin' time. And then the other thing is, on that Sunday when there was that friggin' just, the big flash of lightning and the crack of thunder, I'm barely spiritual. I'm not religious. I always say I'm a lousy Jew. I eat bacon and ham and shellfish and work on Saturdays. I'm a terrible Jew. Um, but when there was that lightning flash and the crack of thunder, I'm like, this is a bad omen. It's gonna be. Someone just needs to play some Creedence Clearwater Revival, Bad Mood Rising now, and I may just go home. It's like I'm calling it. And that's how it played out. Dwayne, you have a squeaky pig, dude. See, I wasn't there that night. Clearly, I wasn't there that night for that. The other Run Through the Jungle, yeah, Deliverance. There was one night when I was going to and it was a night where things got. It was actually. It was wow. That was the night of Diaz Love and Summer Taylor. When Run Through the Jungle played when I was crossing the 520 bridge on Creedence. Yeah. How come we don't have we had some protest music right during the Bush years, right, when the kind of the Gulf War and stuff. We had some protest music there. Green Day immediately comes to mind. The whole American Idiot album, work of art. Really a work of art. Funny, and there's an amazing story, by the way, of American Idiot. So the album before American Idiot, I can't remember the name of that album. They had the song Warning came off of that, but that was a very different kind of Green Day album, right? A lot of that music wasn't kind of like the dark, moody, emo-y, angry-ish, angsty Green Day music. And what had happened was is they had a lot of them married, started having kids. Billy Joe had kids, and they were like, we're not going to do we have kids, we have families, we're gonna. And saw this interview with them, and when they started working American Idiot, they were in the first 15 minutes on this, and they were just like, fuck this, we're gonna do what we're gonna do. And boy, I'm so glad they did. It's a great album. But we don't really have any good protest music right now. None of it. It's 60s and 70s. I mean, I wasn't alive for this shit. Or if I was way too young to understand any of this stuff. The 60s, 70s, you had the singer-songwriter movement. So you had all these people that were singer-songwriters. And so all of these singer-songwriters, because you could be ugly as fuck. And but if you were talented, you could still be a musician. But we weren't into this era where it was you have to be the whole package, where basically it's you have to be really attractive, and it's and if you really have no friggin' talent, that's okay, because we'll just put you on auto-tune and get you some backup singers, and we'll go get somebody washed up to write your songs for you, and we'll make you famous. And that's generally not how things were in the 60s and 70s. And if you look at some of the really look, Janis Joplin. Look, I'm not saying this to be hateful, but I mean, come on. Janis, right? She would never today. Never. Jimmy, never today. And you could just go on and on and on. Peter, Paul, and Mary, come on. None of these people. Well, Mary was a bit of a looker back in the day, I guess. I'm trying to think. Zager and Evans. Roy Orbison, right? Roy friggin' Orbison. This dude never get a gig today. Roy Orbison was friggin' amazing. Tom Petty, Neil Young, right? All these guys from the early 70s and in the 60s and stuff. Well, they were never, but they wrote all this great stuff, and we don't have that today. I just don't get it. We need some good protest music. I mean, shit, they've had a lot of inspiration to write it. Belting out ABBA. I like Pillow Talk. I haven't done it in a long time. Yeah. Jeff, what color is the sky where you live? Should have turned on the radio on Saturday. It popped up as soon as I got to Cal Anderson. Cal Anderson was really chill tonight. It was really, really chill there tonight. There was nothing to film. It was just really, really chill. Uh, and When I mean there was nothing to film, I mean there was literally nothing to film. There's people there and stuff. They're in the shelter again, which of course this is the banality of SPD, right? This whole whack-a-mole game of we're going to push the unhomed out of the shelter. We're going to push the caring for the unhomed that's going on there because Seattle sure as shit isn't doing it. And this stupid game of like whack-a-mole that's been going on over there. We push the unhomed out and they come back 4 hours later. And that's kind of what's been going on over there. So it looks like maybe the game of whack-a-mole has stopped over there. And geez, what a shock. It's quiet. Who to see this goes back to? They need to beat them harder. You beat them harder. Every person you beat, you create 10 more protesters. When you let go, they start to dissolve. This was the same technique that was used by alt-right protesters at the Malheur Wildlife Refuge. There was this back-off phase, and they kind of wore people down. And then the government got impatient and reached a point where they said no. You had essentially this assassination of one of the leaders. And the whole thing, is a suicide by cop and yada, yada. You can debate all that, all you want. Was it right and proper? You got to be consistent. And I'll say this again if you're on the right. If the guys in Malheurs were heroes and CHOP is awful, you need to check you right. You're just looking at it through the filter then of your filter. Because they're either both villains or they're both heroes. They're both standing up to the government for what they believe is their First Amendment rights. They both caused property damage. They both caused expense on the communities they were in. They both caused law enforcement to get involved in things the law enforcement didn't want to get involved to. They created problems for the citizens. They didn't. Oh, they absolutely did at Malheur. So it all comes together, and you need to be consistent in view, or you're a hypocrite. I hate hypocrites. Oh yeah, we had Alicia, and I, you guys were buying her music, and I was able to go to her after we finished that stream on August 9th, and I was like, hey, just want to let you know some people bought your album, and and just her face just absolutely lit up, and that was great to see. I haven't seen Trumpet Man. I haven't seen Trumpet Man in a while. Actually, is Trumpet Man okay? Or is he like just down in PDX? Like, I know he got rocked down in PDX, and I know he was arrested at least once. And I know he got totally rocked because one of the British reporters there got the picture of him writing on the street in his own friggin' blood. Man, that is badassery. We're just a bunch of cowards. Yeah. He's saying that in mom's basement behind a keyboard. Yeah. I'll tell you, a lot of the protesters I've seen, especially the ones that are kind of on the front line, they are anything but cowards. Anything. That is whole next level badassery. When you take a friggin' shot like that and you start friggin' writing in your own blood in the friggin' street. That is a whole new level of badassery. But anyway, like, what's up with Trumpet Man? Because someone just said that. I haven't seen him in a long time. Here, so he was live here today. So is he live here in Seattle, or is he PDX? Yeah, like I heard about that too, right? I heard there was like some crazy standoff over it, which is just like, you gotta be free. Great example of like the police. You will keep using that word. I don't think that word means what you think that word means. Marxist. Marxist. See, here's why. Have you seen the Black Lives Matter leadership? They studied Marxism. If you like go to college and like say you study political science or economics or or like more like modern history, you're going to study Marxism because Marxism is not a political system, you dumbass. Marxism is a philosophy, it is a philosophical principle. That's all it is. How do you know that? Because I don't listen to Tucker Carlson and get told what to think. I studied Marxism. Marxist! I read his book. It's a tough read. He's not a great writer. It's a tough read. But I read his book because I wanted to feed my head holes. Doesn't make me a Marxist. There's some things that Marx has written and wrote, and some things that he got that are kind of playing out like he said he would. There's some other things that when he wrote that he could never imagine today. One of the core principles of Marxism is that people that do physical work, physical labor with their hands, that those are the people of the highest value. But the question then become, because Marx himself wasn't very popular when he was writing this stuff, did he write this in a sense to become populist, to become more popular with the audience reading the book, or is this something that he really believed? And here's the other thing where it really doesn't apply today. Although you had industrialization happening in the era that Marx wrote his if you want to call it a manifesto, right? He wrote his book on Marxism, his philosophy. It's not a political system. It's a philosophy. When he wrote it, he could have never envisioned the modern era that we are in today, where really there aren't a whole lot of people that do physical labor. That's not true. I'm a farmer and I do physical labor. You do not do physical labor like it's 1848 physical labor. You do not go out and hand pick your crops. You do not go and hand milk your cows unless you have a handful of cows. You have milking machines. You have combines. You have harvesters. You have planting machines. You have machines, and mechanization do all of this friggin' stuff. Marx's brain would melt today. Don't be a friggin' idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Like, seriously. Now you're just being elitist because you're being an idiot. Marxism. Look, let me drop some truth on you. If you haven't been banned or if you still haven't I'm not going to listen to you anymore. Let me truth bomb some things on you here. Okay? Lenin was not a popular guy. Lenin had to leave Russia because Russia wanted Lenin dead. And he was hanging out in Switzerland. Then this thing happened called World War I, not World War II, like Dear Leader can't get the year right of when the Spanish flu hit, 1918, Dear Leader, and had nothing to do with World War II, it was World War I. But anyway, when World War I hit, Germany was fighting on both fronts. Germany apparently likes doing that in world wars, but they were fighting Russia and they were fighting France. They really wanted to get Russia out of the game, and Russia was plummeting to revolution because the gap between the haves and the have-nots was massive. And Nicholas II, the Tsar, the last Tsar, was an awful leader. He was an awful leader, not in the sense that he was a maniacal bastard. He was an awful leader in the sense that he was weak and ineffective as a leader. And then you have to have some questions also on how much Rasputin was meddling in political affairs, because he was given a ton of weight within the court of the royal family in treating the hemophilia of the son. And keeping the son alive was vital, because Nicholas and the family had 4 daughters and 1 son. And if the one son could not go on to continue to have another child, which would probably be an even sicker hemophiliac, the bloodline was already dying, so to speak, that would be the end of the the bloodline. Of course, all of this, as you're moving deep into kind of this revolutionary period, wouldn't matter anymore. You had the monarchy in England was already a figurehead. Wilhelm II, although was kind of calling the shots in Germany. And here's the really weird thing. They were all friggin' related. Wilhelm II, British royal family, Nicholas Tsar, they were all friggin' cousins. It's all kind of really sick and twisted in an Arkansas kind of way. Anyway, the Germans had a problem because things aren't going very well anymore. They really want Russia out of the war so they can really focus on kicking France's ass. And there's this guy Lenin. And so what Germany was like, hey, we got this idea. We're going to fund Lenin. We're going to send Lenin to Russia, and he's going to do his revolution, and he's going to kill the czars, and then we're going to kill him. Now, the United States has done this stupid idea, Cuba, Bay of Pigs, Baby Doc Duval, Banana Republics. We've played this game, and it's just blown up in our... By the way, Osama bin Laden. Guess who trained Osama bin Laden? The United States did. We trained him in Afghanistan. We taught him how to kill people, how to be a terrorist, how to run a guerrilla war. We paid him. We armed him. And then we lost control of the monster that we created. But we've done this over and over again. Well, guess what? Germany did the exact same friggin' thing. And Lenin showed up, and Lenin was booed when he showed up. And when Lenin tried to do speeches and stuff, it didn't stick. What happened is that Nicholas really tried to clamp down. And basically there were some riots going on because people were literally starving to death. And so they were essentially just rioting for food. And then the decision was made to send in troops to quell the rebellions. And when the soldiers showed up and they're like, okay, you're going to go shoot your own people, the Russian soldiers had more integrity than the United States police forces and said, we're not doing that. What are you talking about? We're not going to go shoot our own people. And then they started rioting with them. And so at that point, Lenin came in. We know kind of the story up to that point. You had the White Army and the Red Army in this brutal war. And Lenin was a bastard, and Trotsky was a bastard. And it was bloody as hell. And they attempted to do communism. And when you say the word communism, what people really envision in their head is Stalinism, which is different from communism. And guess what Lenin figured out? If you actually studied some fucking history, not directed at people that have studied some fucking history, but if you actually studied some fucking history, guess what Lenin figured out real quick? It doesn't work. The living conditions of the people were not getting better. And Lenin was like, holy crap. Like, I'm going to lose my fucking head. By the way, the Germans, of course, didn't kill him at this point because the Germans lost World War I, Treaty of Versailles, which set up World War II and set up a whole chain reaction of problems, including the whole issue of Palestinian rights and development of Israel. All of that was laid down in 1918, as well as the simmering problems in the Balkans that were never resolved, and the forced division up of creating all of these countries that turned into this Eastern European hot mess. All of that happened. And so you know what Lenin started doing? They actually did something which you could call democratic socialism. If you actually studied some history, what Lenin implemented was, okay, you can own property. And okay, you can have your own business. And okay, you can make a profit. But we're going to have wage and price controls. And we're going to kind of try to make sure that things are equitable. But this whole idea, like, it doesn't friggin' work. And guess what happened to the Russian economy? It bloomed. And they had like this little mini glasnost period in the 1920s. But Lenin was sickly. And here's the other thing. Lenin did not trust Stalin and did not want Stalin to get in charge. And Stalin was a friggin' monster. And probably one of the best things that one of Stalin's best traits, which of course was very bad for the world, is he was able to read the chessboard really well and stay 1 to 2 moves ahead of everybody who wanted him dead. And there were a ton of people who wanted Stalin dead. And he was able to keep 1 or 2 steps ahead of everyone. all the way up into his own death. Ironically, his own death kind of brought upon, in a sense, through his own paranoia, because basically any doctor that was trying to treat him for his last few years of his life, he would be convinced that that doctor was trying to kill him, and he would have that doctor killed, to the point that any doctor that had any sense anywhere in the Russian and the Soviet state was like, hey, how would you like to be Stalin's doctor? No, I don't. No, not me. No, sorry, I'm retired. I'm not a doctor anymore. I'm going to go be a farmer now. No, I don't want to be the doctor. So, like, when you say stupid shit, like, you want communism, you sound stupid. You sound stupid and uninformed because you haven't studied. You haven't done reading. They're a Marxist, saying people have never read books of Marx. So you can't even define what Marxism is, other than what Tucker Carlson told you, or something that you read on an 8chan board. That's Yoda, by the way. That's Yoda. There you go. He's pretty. He likes laying his head on the pillow. He's being really quiet tonight. But yeah, that was him. Oh my goodness gracious. We have the all caps. Eugenia, when you type in all caps like that, is that like because you're screaming or because your cap lock button is broken? Well, again, Kimberly, it's not directed at everybody. I think you know who it's directed. I mean, it's fair. People starving while the SARS had jewels. Yeah, exactly. It kind of sounds like, I don't know, right? The whole gap, the whole that whole gap between like the have and the have nots. And that's one of the huge problems we have here in the United States. That gap is growing wider. Or people just have to work harder. Your happy ass is in that same pot of boiling water. You're just too stupid to realize it if that's what you really think. Your ass is in the same pot of boiling water. It all is. Again, Dr. Mrs. Malcontent. Really blessed. I'm really, really fortunate. But we're in the same pot of water because we're not in the 1/10 of 1%. And the system in this country right now is set up to benefit the 1/10 of 1%. Look what happened in Iowa. Look what happened in Iowa today. So Iowa was basically flattened by a derecho. So what the hell is that? Right? It's been described as an inland hurricane, which is not accurate. So here's what happens. You get a line of thunderstorms. That line of thunderstorms forms over a very, very long area. And then it forms in a bow. In a bow. Think like a bow, an arch. But it's over hundreds of miles. And the rain, the column of rain that is coming out of all of this, Yoda's really asleep, coming out of all of this, and the updrafts and downdrafts creates this wall of wind that is being pushed ahead of this line of thunderstorms and downpours of rain. And this wall of wind is 70, 80, 90, of course, in Iowa and areas over 100 miles an hour. So you have essentially hurricane force winds, but it's not an inland hurricane in the meteorological sense. And this passed over Iowa. Who cares? The state has been devastated, like really devastated. It's like near historic from the standpoint of wind damage in the state. 1/3 of the crops. Think about this. It's August, so this is prime time. 1/3 of the crops in Iowa are destroyed. Fucking destroyed. Another 7 to 10% on top of that is very badly damaged. Tens of millions of pounds of grain that had already been harvested has been sitting in silos, ironically because of tariffs, which are, wait for it, tariffs, on the whole little side subject, tariffs are price controls by definition. And so by definition, a tariff is socialism. Take all the time you want to unpack that. Because of tariffs on China, there's huge stores that are sitting in silos because there's no market to sell them to. And the farmers are just kind of hoping that the tariffs will go away so that they can sell them to foreign markets again. Well, tens of millions of pounds of stored grain was also destroyed. And so the governor of Iowa applied for state disaster declaration, which of course then frees up FEMA and federal resources to rebuild. And Dear Leader said, I'm coming there on Tuesday, which was today or probably yesterday at this point. I'm going to come there. He said, I think on Sunday I'm going to come there. I'm going to look at some of the damage. I got a little rally stop there. I'm going to come look at some damage. I'm going to, and of course, look, total PR thing, but most presidents would do this, right? I'm not going to, I'm seriously, and people that watch me for a long time know, look, I'm not going to zing someone for doing something that everyone else would do, right? If this was, and I, by the way, never voted for Obama either election. If this was Obama, he did the same thing. Hey, I'm coming in for a campaign stop. I'm going to shake some hands, a little PR time, blah, 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 promising you the aid. Yo, yay, vote for me, right? Bush 43, Clinton, Reagan, Bush 41, Reagan, Carter, they've all done it. Nixon after Camille, like 29 hours later, your president is here. Real famous quote. Bush 43, 9/11 grounds. By the way, now it's an iconic, even then, totally iconic speech that he did there. Anyway, yeah, and you're going to get all this aid, promise. And the governor of Iowa tweeted out, the cavalry's coming to get all this aid. So, Dear Leader, golfer in chief, showed up in Iowa today. Never left the airport. He's only on the ground like 3 hours. Never left the airport. Never he didn't even throw a roll of paper towels at someone. He didn't even bring a case of paper towels on that airplane. And then it turns out, guess who's getting aid? Not farmers and not homeowners. We have to figure out if they're going to get some more aid yet. There. Boy, with friends like that, who needs enemies? There's a town that my parents retired to in Texas. They had a terrible tornado go through that town, hundreds of homes destroyed. This is like deep red Dear Leader supporting territory. There's a lot of people that tell it are really ticked off because guess what? They were told, yeah, no FEMA aid for you, not enough homes destroyed. They're like, the whole town's destroyed. What do you mean? You keep voting against your own interests, America. Yeah, there's some really horrible stuff. Yeah, the tariffs absolutely are hurting Americans. Are hurting. I have a friend. They own a distillery, an award-winning distillery. He makes some good booze. And they have tariffs on the glass bottles. And they just, right now, the tariff on the glass bottles they buy to put their alcohol in is 245%. Why doesn't he buy American bottles? Because nobody makes the bottles. And no manufacturer is going to step up and go, well, we'll start making the bottles and we'll go buy the equipment to make all the bottles and stuff, because once the tariffs go away, there's no business anymore. If you keep the tariffs in place forever and ever, that's socialism, because it's price controls. You can steal golfer in chief, Dora. You can steal that. Jim's in the house. Jim, I owed you a reply too. You asked me a question, I didn't reply back on that, and I'm really sorry, man. But the reality is, you didn't miss anything. I know you were at, and I didn't go, you were asking if I was going to go to a certain thing, and I didn't go to that. I did something else. Tarif don't like it.
All right, Ben. Yeah, and I'm hitting the wall too. Your truth is so powerful, I dropped my hot pocket. My cat heard Yoda and looked alert. He's actually been quiet today. These people love the pugs. That's why I put him up on the bed. Holy shit, it's late. There he is. Oh, he is dreaming. His the eyes over. He has like the dead dog look right now. Yoda's almost 17. He's closer to 17 at this point than 16. He's doing really good, but he sleeps when he's dreaming or starts to dream. He sleeps with an eye open. It's really friggin' bizarre. See, the eye's starting to close. His paws were twitching a little bit. Oh yeah. Anyway, that's Yoda the Wonder Pug. Everyone loves Yoda the Wonder Pug. He is a sweet little soul. Actually, I'll close with this little funny story about Yoda the Wonder Pug. Um, Yoda discovered when we moved into this house that in the summertime, one of the doors in the house that goes to the outside, if you don't physically lock that door, that because, houses contract and expand a little bit, so that door doesn't latch really, really well. And he figured out pretty quickly after we moved in this house in the summer months that he could push that door open. And as he's gotten older, he just kind of sleeps a lot. Today, home office, and I come downstairs. I can't find Yoda. I can't find him anywhere. And I'm thinking to myself, God, when I put him out in the yard, I didn't lock him outside, did I? And I open up the front door, and we have an indoor-outdoor cat, and there's a little cat bed on the front porch there. And the cat, not in the summer, not when it's really hot, when it gets colder, the cat will curl up in his little bed out there, and he chills out there. So Yoda's passed out on the cat's bed. I'm like, oh my God, I was tired. I must have friggin' locked the poor dog out. That's terrible. And I go back downstairs again later because my office up on the second floor when I'm home office. And, this is on the other floor of the house. And I can't find Yoda yet. I'm like, what the hell? And then I find that door is open. And I'm like, son of a bitch. And I'm really surprised because he usually isn't this spirited at this point. He's really snoring now. He's usually not this spirited because of his age. And then I have this other funny side story and open the door. You guys are gonna, if you love animals, look, bipartisan agreement coming up. You can be left or right on this one. Bipartisan agreement's coming up on this one. You're gonna think this is friggin' adorable. Uh, anyway, he pushed the door open, and I found him out wandering around in the backyard like he owned the place. Just like, dude, what are you doing? Picked him up, carried him, and even though he can hear pretty good, he's pretty blind, and he heard me lock. Heard the click, made sure the door, closed the door, made sure the door was latched, and the look on his face was just like I had broken his heart. No, I want to go outside on my own. So he is feeling really saucy. So here's the thing that Yoda figured out. The cat would sometimes come up to the door at like 3 a.m. and do like the meow thing, like, hey, somebody let me in. And I know this because we have multiple Ring cameras around the house. Yeah, so like if you're thinking, I'm going to come and get you one day. First of all, I like the entire Bill of Rights, all 10 of the amendments in the Bill of Rights, including the Second Amendment. So that's number one. Number two, cameras and alarms, and very close with my neighbors. Just don't think about it. Anyway, the cat would come and meow, 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 let me in. And we know this from seeing the camera. So in those summer months, Yoda, if that back door was accidentally not latched, Yoda would open the door to let the cat in. And the cat started figuring this out. So the cat would go to that door and wanted to come in the middle of the night when Yoda was younger and wasn't quarter deaf and 9/10 blind, and be meow, 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 somebody let me in. And Yoda would open the friggin' door for him and let him in. So we come downstairs and the door's wide open. Of course, then it's like, well, who left the door open?
I didn't leave the door open, nothing. We set up a camera back there, and that's how we figured it out. It's like, oh my God, he's opening the door for the cat. And, and then when I realized, it's like, man, if Yoda was younger, we could have hung a rope and we could have taught him to close the door afterwards. Our life would be nirvana. Because then it would just be like, dude, go let the cat out. Okay, I'll let the cat out. Okay, Yoda, go back, close it. Oh, that's right, close the door. Yes, I'll go close the door now. He'll pull on the rope, close the door. Okay, door's closed. I get a treat now, right? I was a good dog. I'm a good dog. Where's my treat? I want my treat. Pugs are super food motivated. They just live for food. Live for food, for that matter. All right, last little run. Hey, Linda from California, how are you? He's my little buddy. Oh, he is cute. And I'll tell you, he has a heart of gold. He really does. This is the fourth pug I've been owned by. And they all have had different personalities. And Yoda is just this gentle, gentle soul. There is not a mean bone in his body. It's just not. He's just the sweetest little thing, and just everything is a potential. If it has legs, it's a potential friend. Which sometimes, like, I would take him to the dog park, and there'd be some dog that would just be like, "Dude, back off, man!" And that dog is trying to transmit in dog, "Dude, back off." And Yoda would just like, "I don't understand. We just need to be friends. It'll all be good. I just want to be your friend. Can we be friends?" And he would not. I just sometimes just feel like, dude, you're not getting it. This dog don't want to be friends. No, it's okay. We'll figure it out. We be friends. He's just the sweetest little thing. It's too bad we couldn't all be like that. All right, one other closing thought. I was actually thinking about this tonight. I'm really fortunate. I live in an amazing street. And for some of the people on the right, this is just going to sound like hell to you. I have neighbors, they're Brazilian, first generation. I have neighbors that are Iranian, first generation. I have neighbors that are German, first generation. I have neighbors that are Russian, first generation. Then I have two sets of neighbors that are native Washingtonians. They're from here, and then I'm a transplant, and I've just covered the entire street. That's it. So I live in this street where we have BIPOC on the street. Everyone's really, really nice. And we have Arabic, Farsi, Portuguese, German, Hebrew, Russian, and of course English and bad English spoken on the street. 8 different languages. I said German, right? Yeah, so 8 different languages. And then I don't know if there is anybody on the street that says has a second language. I'm sure I have another neighbor close by. He's Swedish, and he's a great guy. I disagree with his views on COVID, but he's outside of that, he's a great guy. He really is. He's a great guy. And I don't hold against him. He's Swedish. And I live in a town. This town is not perfect in many ways. We had a pretty significant racial incident in this town a couple of years ago. I think the town could have done more from a city leadership standpoint in how they addressed it, but we did address it. We didn't just try to sweep it under the rug or hope it went away or tried to blame the dangerous minority. Oh no, dangerous minority. There's definitely a subset of people in this town that aren't enlightened. That's not the right word. There's a subset of these people in this town that are just holy shit. But you have that everywhere. No, I'm very fortunate. I could have grown up in a different way. I know at this hour, Mom Malcontent isn't watching. She's in bed. My father was really racist. My father was really, really racist. Um, and my mother, I would call, kind of like somebody, which a lot of people in their generation are. She's unintentionally racist or unaware racist. I think what the term is, it's unintentional or unaware, or and at her age, it's kind of just like you just have to, sometimes you're just like, oh God, Mom, you didn't just say that out loud. You didn't, you what? No, don't say. Oh my God, and your skin kind of crawls. Anybody who has older parent, and look, another 30 years from now, I'm going to make my friggin' kids and grandkids skin crawl by shit that I say. And it's going to be the same for all of us. So just buckle up, Buttercup, and accept it. And I grew up in a town that was super white. How white was it? It was so white that when a black family moved to the town that I grew up in, it was a newspaper story. And it was like how progressive and enlightened as a town we were now. I remember reading this as a kid. I was a kid. So I was always into like being in the news and stuff even then. I remember reading this story about like how excited they were that this black family was moving to our town. I was real little kid when Vietnamese boat people were coming to the United States, and there was a couple of families that were located also into our little town in central Massachusetts, west of Worcester. You know what's west of Worcester? Nothing. Ye be dragons west of Worcester. And we had a school assembly. I remember this. We had a school assembly on like, hey, there's going to be these kids who are going to be coming to school, and they're going to look different than you, and they speak very, very little English, and some of your parents are probably going to be very unhappy because of, like, there was this whole war thing going on, and so like some of their daddies were fighting their daddies, 10 years ago, and people are still upset about this. And like, you're going to be nice to these kids. And I remember, like, even then, I'm just like, I so don't get it. And like, I have a brother that's now deceased who, because of half brother, through half brothers and half sisters and prior marriages, and my parents had me scandal, very late in their lives, very late in their lives. I have a brother who's still alive, who's would have been old enough to be my father without raising an eyebrow. 20 years difference. And I had another brother who is old enough to kind of go like, huh, had a kid a little young. But again, not like kind of like, holy shit, dude, he screwed up young. So when I was like little, I had a brother who was in Vietnam, Marine Corps, 3 Purple Hearts, explosive ordnance disposal, 7 months, 3rd Purple Heart, got his ticket home. He died in a motorcycle accident. Wrote about him. You actually go to malcontentment.com. I wrote about him. He used to call me Little Buddy. And anyway, I remember even just as this little kid, like, why would I be an a-hole to these other kids? I don't get it. Like, why are we here? Why is this being explained to us? Are we just supposed to be nice to each other? But I guess not. Rising tide lifts all ships. I think people hear, it's like when you say save the whales. Is that like saying screw all the other mammals? Or other mammals are important? Oh my God, what about the polar bears? Or like save that's the animal du jour. Let's save the polar bears. What about elephants? Well, nobody said that elephants weren't important. That's not the point. Right? And that's kind of like what you sound like. A rising tide lifts all ships. That's just logical. If we break down the systemic inequalities that this country is foundationally based on and just level the playing field, that's all. If we did that, you're going to have a better educated society. The better educated society is more productive, and they produce more per capita in GDP. Since all of you are just so fond of throwing around words like communism and socialism and Marxism, and apparently our political system and economic system college graduates from the University of Google, or the University of Tucker Carlson. But if you have a better educated society, guess what happens? You have a more productive society that produces more GDP. And if you have a society that produces more GDP, then you're generating more wealth. And if you're generating more wealth, then you have less crime. And if you have less crime, then you need less police and less social services. And if you need less police and less social services, you have lower taxes. And the reason you also have lower taxes is because you have higher GDP. So people are generating more things per hour and at a higher rate. So you don't have to have as high of taxes in relationship to what people are actually earning. This is like economics. It's not about taking away. It's about making it better for everyone. I just have to work harder. It's like I'm so exhausted on that one. You know, go watch Inequality in America, The Challenge of a Generation. The video's pinned on the page. It's 4 minutes and 12 seconds. You can watch that 4 minutes and 12 seconds with at least a slightly open mind. It explains how and why the deck is so stacked. And if we were to just do these simple things, they're so hard for us for some freaking reason. Oh. One other thing that I know keep saying we're done, but there's one other thing. There's one other thing I wanted to cover tonight. Here's the other one. Have you read the BLM thing? They want to do away with the nuclear family. That's horrible. You keep using that word. I do not think you know what the word means, what you think it means. Right? The nuclear family is described as, and you know what the definition of a nuclear family is? A nuclear family is described as a husband and wife with 2.3 kids. I don't know how you get the 0.3, but that's the average, right? The average is nuclear family is husband and wife with 2.3 kids. The wife stays home. The husband works, right? And you have like little Miss Susie homemaker. And you go to church and you just go to Sunday school on Sunday. See, that's all good. Yes, all of that is really good. I don't disagree with this concept. However, not everybody wants to have kids. By the way, if you also, like when I went back through when we did this thing, we have higher GDP and lowered this whole thing that isn't like fantasy land, it's just fucking economics 101, and it's achievable. You also end up with a lower birth rate because more educated people and people that are more productive, pardon my vernacular, they fuck less and they have less kids because they're just more satisfied with their life. There's nothing wrong with having sex. Sex is amazing. It's amazing. But generally, people that are more educated have less sex. There's a lot of science behind that. And people that are educated and have more hope have far fewer kids because basically in these countries where people say have 10, 12, 14 kids, it's because they're living like it's still the friggin' 1700s or 1800s. They need 12 or 14 kids to work the farm and feed the people, and 4 or 5 of those kids are going to die anyway, and so you just end up in this vicious cycle. Anyway, the nuclear family. Not everybody wants to have 2.3 kids. Not everybody wants to have a traditional marriage of a man and woman. There are gay people. I know that's horrible, isn't it? See, so that doesn't align. If you go to the roots of the nuclear family, you can go all the way to the 1970s in the United States. That's my friggin' lifetime. And probably for a number of people listening to me right now, your lifetime, where interracial marriage was illegal. Illegal. right? Nuclear family. When did the nuclear age start? The 1950s. So what? Interracial marriage is bad. Now, some of you are going to say yes. Then I'm like, well, then fine. You racist piece of poop. My daughter-in-law is black. I don't give a fuck. She's an amazing woman. And my stepson is really happy and really in love. And that's all I care about. I guess that makes me an awful human being. Not everybody wants to get married because they've seen how the institution of marriage in this country is a kind of a farce because we have a 50% divorce rate. So not everyone wants to get married. Not everybody wants to go to church on Sunday. And here's the one I hate to break it to you. There's a whole lot of women that the whole idea of staying at home and spitting out 2.3 kids and cooking and cleaning all day and bringing you your slippers when you show up and letting you go out with the boys and here, honey, I caught these fish and I got these deers, cook it for me. Yeah, that's not their idea of a fulfilling life. So when you say again this like they want to destroy the nuclear family, which it's like that. It's not that the nuclear family is bad. It's just the nuclear family isn't for everybody in 2020. That's all. Why should you care what consenting adults do in a bedroom? Keyword there is consenting adults. All right? I mean, come on, let's face it. We all have only so many attachments and holes. So there's only just so many things. Right? There's only a finite number of solutions after a while here of where tab A and slot B could go and what tab A and slot B is. What do you care? What does it matter? As long as it's consenting adults, so what? Anyway, that's it. I'm spent. One more quick things here. Ooh, I like that, and that's very true because I've seen. Like we have eagles and crows here. I used to work at a building that was on the Crow Skyway here in the Puget Sound area, where the crows would all fly over to go back and rook over at University of Washington campus in Bothell, and like in the wintertime, it was like Alfred friggin' Hitchcock outside for like 10 minutes. Just clouds of crows flying all over. So I've seen the crows like freaking out on hawks and eagles around here. Man, the crows just kick their friggin' butts. Your spouse lives there briefly. I don't see. Thank you for the truth. I'm sure I'll meet you soon. Easy to spot the eye in the sky. Yeah, the pole is the pole definitely stands out when I'm out there. The of course the other thing is yes, Dora, very true. The other thing I think with the pole. Seriously, I will close with this because I'm starting to fade. I haven't done a pillow talk in a long time. I've done a pillow talk in a really long time. So there's a lot rolling around in the brain. This is a long. Normally it's like I don't go over an hour, and I can see almost 2 hours. Oh my god, I lost my train of thought. So I am just friggin' tired at this point. Oh, I remember what it is. Eric Greatwood in Portland, right? If you've watched Eric Greatwood in Portland, yeah, he was filming again, and he got friggin' rocked. Basically, his first day back out. Just got friggin' rocked by Portland police, where they're not supposed to touch media. And Eric Greatwood is probably one of the best streamers when he's streaming in the whole friggin' country. Like Eric could probably get a job offer with the MSM, and he probably could just dive into that job. He's a great friggin' streamer, and I have mad respect for him. And he had streamed for a while because he had some stuff. He's working on some stuff in this. He's been very transparent. It's not telling you anything. You couldn't go on his page and find out. We are Facebook friends. We've chatted just a couple of times. Um, he's a great guy. And again, he's really freaking good what he does. But he got rocked. And I don't know if he's going to go back out because I don't think he's been out. Because again, he went out place first and he just got rocked that night. He went back on the air. He was on the air maybe like 10 minutes. I could hear it in his voice. It could just and as someone who's a streamer, like I could hear it. And I'm a little worried he may be done because he sounded a little broken. Not broken in like he was hurt, but he just sounded kind of like, like really shocked. But I get it. I get why at first what I was thinking was Portland police were targeting him because he's an easy target, right? It's the pole. This dude with the pole. Get the dude with the pole. He's an easy target. Nah, because the poll shows the big story, right? And Eric exposed a lot of things and the tactics and all that were there. And I think Eric was kind of instrumental in really showing what was going on with the feds and telling that narrative and showing the overreaction and the heavy-handed response. And Eric was damn close to a friggin' combat reporter when things were really, really screwed up in Portland. But he was showing the story. And I wanted him to show the story. And then he started targeting the shit out of him. I'm not saying this to self-martyr and stuff, but it is one concern that I have now with Sunday. I know SPD knows who I am now. Because again, if people who watch the stream on Sunday know, SPD stopped and took my friggin' picture right there on the feed. So I've earned a file, or at least, or my picture's up somewhere with the board with the lines that are connecting to things, which I'm flattered. Seriously, Seattle police. But they made it really clear they didn't give a fuck about the press on Sunday, and of course the camera exposed, and now the pushback, because they came out with their false narrative, and the pushback is hitting hard on multiple sites. Even Como's run a story using our video, and other videos are popping up from other streamers showing how they violated the consent decree, how they violated the 810 court order, and the pressure is building. And I just have a feeling the next time things get shitty, I better be ready for it. Because I think they're going to be coming for me. So, and we know that they've rocked other streamers and targeted. We know they've targeted press. So, that's it. So, I think things will probably be pretty quiet for the most part. I know that there's a big rally that's planned on Saturday in Olympia. It's public information. I don't know if we'll be there. Dr. and Mrs. Malcontented has an MRI coming up. And the family is always the priority. I mean, she is my world. And I know she had one hell of a night tonight at work. She works at the trauma center here, and she had one hell of a night there. Just, yeah, she had a rough night. So I always close, I think, with saying, think about some of the stuff I talked about. I feel sometimes a lot of time, I just get to the end of these feeds and then I feel bad because I brutalize people on the right. It's just the ignorance, it's willful ignorance. It's not when people don't know better. It's when you see people that come on and make the comments and they know better and they're just being willfully ignorant. Those are the ones that I just want to. It's not that you're living in my head. It's just, holy crap, how stupid can you be? But I know, saying that out loud doesn't help the cause. And then I feel bad after. And right now I'm just like, I shouldn't have said that stuff. I should have just stuck to the facts. I should have and so anyway, I lost objectivity. I'm human. I'm tired. I'm sorry. I will try to be more objective the next Pillow Talk. We don't do as many of these. I know I keep saying one last thing, and this really will be the one last friggin' thing, and then I'm going to be done. If activity with marches and stuff, if that kind of starts to drop off, we'll eventually move back to studio work and start doing more kind of like the news program-ish stuff that we were doing before. I don't think it's going to kind of drop off. If anything, I think it may do this, and I think it's going to go like this. And there's reasons why I think it's going to go like this. That's what I kind of think. It has nothing to do like, oh, he knows something. No, it's not. It's strictly my opinion. But we'll probably go back to some more of the studio stuff, some more of the newsroom kind of stuff. And maybe some more in the pillow. I think we'll have more pillow talks. We just get in the wintertime because the weather's just going to get real shitty here. And you're going to have to be really, really friggin' hardcore to want to march every day. And then I think there'll be some points that even if people are marching, if the weather is particularly shitty, it's just going to be hard to friggin' stream it because keeping lenses dry and everything's rain streaked and blah. It's just going to be hard to friggin' stream it because there's just going to be equipment limitations. Certainly no pole cam in the wintertime here. The weather's bad because within 5 minutes the lens is just going to be covered in raindrops and there's no way to keep wiping it. It's like, oh, let me drop the pole down here, wipe it, and 2 more minutes later I'm going to drive. It's not practical use, not practical for me. So anyway, from me and Yoda the Wonder Pug, who is he's he might start barking. Wait a minute. He woke up. He was starting to twitch and dream. I thought we were going to get a little video of him barking, but of course not. All right, everybody, get some sleep. I will probably do Everyday March tomorrow night. That's kind of my plan at this point. I'll probably do EDM tomorrow night. So